Welcome students to the second part of the video. In the last video, I have taught you about the meaning of socialism and the ideas of different philosophers about the socialism. Now, in this video, I will tell you about that how socialism spread to different parts of the countries. So, let us start with our first topic. Dear students, in the last video, I have told you that what were the ideas of different socialist philosophers about the socialism, like Robert Owen, Louis Planck, Karl Marx, what they think about socialism. Now, next important topic is support for socialism, means how their ideas were supported by the common mass of the Russia, or you can say the European countries. So, by the 1870s, socialist ideas spread through Europe. Means by 1870, the idea of socialism was spreading throughout the Europe, not only in Russia, but you can say in the whole Europe. And because of that, the people have started making associations so that they can fight for their better livings and working condition. So, to organize themselves in one group, they formed an international body named as Second International. Now, what is this? Actually, Second International was the body formed by the socialists to coordinate various activities of the socialists at the international level. Now, why they called as a Second International? Because already you know that in the country the capitalist form of government was working, so they called themselves as a Second International. Now this organization helps many workers, or you can say members, those who were the part of their body in the time of distress, or you can say at the time when they need some money or any problem they are facing. At the time, they have provided the funds also to their members. Now, not only this, but many other parties were formed, or you can say many associations were formed. And generally, these associations try to merge themselves with the party so that they can put forward their point in front of the government. Like in Germany, associations were working with the SPD party, that is Socialist Democratic Party, so that they can help them in winning the parliamentary elections. Now, not only in Germany, but many associations have formed the parties in different countries, like Socialist and Trade Unionist form a Labour Party in Britain, and Socialist Party was formed in France. So, with this, you can see that these associations were working with these parties so that they can bring their points at one platform and where they can bring a change in the society. But till 1914, the socialists never succeeded in forming the government in Europe. Why? Because I have already told you in the last video that the society was having a great influence of the radicals, liberals, and the conservatives. So they could never precede the influence of radicals, liberals, and conservatives. So here you can say that socialism was spreading slowly in Russian society, and they were the people, those who were against the private property, and they believe that the private property was the root cause of all the social evils in the society. Now, because of these conditions only, it gave the platform for the Russian Revolution. Now, before reading about the Russian Revolution, it is very important to know that what were the economic and socio condition of Russia and who was ruling the Russia at that time. So the next important topic is the Russian Revolution. So in 1914, Tsar Nicholas II ruled the Russia, means he was the king of Russia, or you can say there was an autocracy where a king was ruling and all the power was in his hand only. And what Russia you see today, it was totally different from the previous time. Like Russian Empire, it includes the territories around the Moscow, current day Finland, Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia, and part of Poland, Ukraine, and Belarus. Means earlier all these countries were the part of Russian Empire, but today you see Russia as a nation, or you can say country, and the majority religion was Russian Orthodox Christianity. Now, in Russia, 85% of the Russian population earn their living from agriculture, means you can say 85% of the Russian population was engaged in the agriculture. And at that time, the industries was found in pockets, which means that they were limited in number. And prominent industrial areas were the St. Petersburg and Moscow. And the craftsmen took much of the production, but large factories existed along the craft workshops only. So, during 1890s, many factories were set up when the Russian railways expanded, which means as the Russian railways expanded, many factories were set up, and because of that only, the foreign investment was increased in these industries. Now, dear students, there's a fact that whenever a country is having a good railway network, then it always attract the foreign countries to invest in their countries so that they can earn more and more profit. So, as the number of industries were increasing in Russia, it led to more coal production, which was doubled at that time, and iron steel output was quadruple. Quadruple means it becomes 4 times. So, as all these industries were under the control of the big, powerful industrialists, so they bothered about only their profit. So, they were exploiting these laborers so that they can increase the profit of their factories. But the question is here that the government was not doing anything. Actually, the government has made many laws, but these factory owners many time broke these rules. Now, the government try to ensure that minimum wages and number of working hours should be available to these workers, but the factory inspectors, they break the rule by increasing the working hours from 5 hours to 10 to 12 hours. So this shows that they just want their production to be doubled, but they hardly bothers about the working conditions of their workers. Now, at that time, the women in these factories, they made up of 31%, means 31% women were working in these factories, but they were paid very less in comparison to men. So, with this, you can visualize that the working condition in these factories were very miserable for these workers. So, they united themselves against these factory owners. So, what they did in 1896 to 1897, workers went on strike, first in textile industry, then in 1902, these workers went on strike in the metal industry. Now, as these workers were struggling for their rights, there was another group who was fighting for their rights. That was peasants. Now, these peasants had no respect for nobility, which means that they disliked the nobles. Now, why they dislike nobles? Because in Russia, peasants were divided into two groups. One group was having their own land and they were doing cultivation on their land, and second group, those who were poor peasants, they were working under the nobles, and these nobles actually got their power and position through the service to the Tsar, means that the king of Russia. So many times they exploit these peasants. So now these peasants of Russia, they want that the land of the nobles should be given to them, and when these nobles, they didn't gave their land to them, then they refused to pay the rents and also murdered these landlords. So at that time in Russia, these peasants mostly cultivate their land by pooling up their land, and whatever profit they earn, they divide that according to the needs of the individual families. So with this, you can conclude here that the Russian economy and social condition was not very good when the Tsar was ruling, and most of the workers, factory means laborers or peasants, they were struggling for their rights. So it gave a platform, or a, you can say, a way for the Russian Revolution in Russia. So with this, I have finished the second part of the video. Now in the next part, I will tell you more about the socialism, that how it spread and how the revolution occurred in Russia. Thank you.